Elizabeth and Robert Sutherland, the Highlanders from Caithness, who pioneered settlement in Warepa and shared their new life with an extended network of relatives who also made the long journey to New Zealand. Robert Sutherland and Eliza Ross came from the same small area of Caithness, Berrydale, in Latheron Parish here on the wild northeast coast of Scotland. They were the children of crofters, brought together in fact by the Ross family's eviction from nearby Craig when Eliza was small, after which they took up one of the crofts here at Badnansarry, where the Sutherlands already lived. Eviction was a constant backdrop to life here in Latheron Parish in the early 19th century, with lots of newcomers to the parish from the mass evictions on the Sutherland estate in the nearby Strath of Kildonnan, where the wealthy Duchess of Sutherland was clearing her people to make way for sheep. Many of those evicted also emigrated to Canada, such that young people growing up in Latheron were always conscious of emigration as an option for their futures. Of this couple was actually Eliza, who came to Otago first, accompanied her brothers John and Donald on the ship Clara from London in 1851. Now, they were too late to get assisted passages from the Otago Association and too early to get assisted passages from the Otago provincial government. So like everybody who came to Otago between 1851 and 1856, they had to pay their own way, including making the long journey down from Caithness to London to connect with the ship. This reminds us that not all Highland immigrants were paupers. Eliza's fare to Otago being the substantial sum of £20. Once here, however, she still needed to find work and took service with the family of resident magistrate Alfred Cheetham Strode in Dunedin. Robert Sutherland followed Eliza to Dunedin in 1853, likewise paying his own passage and coming on the Raja from London with his brother Adam. The Sutherland brothers quickly found work as shepherds in Otago and eventually found their way here to South Otago, where there was land to be settled if you could pay the price and develop its potential. Robert's land was at Waitapeka near Warepa, and he was the second pioneer to take up land here. 4 of his siblings followed him to South Otago. The Sutherlands and the Rosses seem to have clustered around each other, a little enclave of friends from home supporting each other in the colony. The Ross farm here at Warepa was even called Langwell, after the name of the Caithness home of the landlord who evicted their family from Craig. Perhaps it symbolised for them newfound freedom in Otago from a landlord's thrall. The relationship between the two families became even closer in 1856 when Eliza Ross married Robert Sutherland in Dunedin, thereafter undertaking one of those epic overland treks to Waitapeka that were the legendary honeymoon journeys of so many pioneer couples in this era. In old age, Eliza could recall in great detail each leg of the journey and every place that they'd sought shelter overnight. The first night it was Harold's accommodation house at Tyree Ferry, then at John Cargill Station at Tokomairero, next was a night with the McCool's at Balclutha, and finally to her brother John's at Warepa, walking every step of the way. After a few days staying with John and his partner Alexander Ross, a fellow shipmate on the Clara and a Highlander from Kildonnan, they made their way to Waitapeka, where they would spend the rest of their lives. This little cluster of Highlanders around Warepa offers a counter to the general view of Highland migration to Otago has been all about sheep men in the high country. Though these men all started as shepherds, they were all keen to get small farms of their own and pioneered small holdings in places like Kaiheku and Waitapeka. Robert Sutherland was moreover a skilled tradesman, a bootmaker, and he brought that valuable skill to the area before abandoning it for farming. And as was typical of Highland farmers, he also had many practical skills, and he was able to build his family a substantial home, and he even made his own furniture. 2 chairs that he made are treasured objects in the Toitu collection, particularly this one, which is of a design distinctive to Latheron Parish and Caithness, although most of it is actually made from New Zealand timber. The rail along the back, however, the key feature that identifies it so closely with Latheron, probably came in Robert's baggage on the Raja. Robert also left his mark on New Zealand by developing a new strain of oats which proved to have a superior yield and became known as Sutherland oats. He and Eliza had 5 daughters. Robert died in 1895, aged 72, but Eliza lived on until 1912. When she died aged 91, she was the last of the original settlers of the Warepa bush, and also the last surviving passenger from the Clara in 1851. She and Robert had built a good life for themselves in Otago, living among a network of close relatives from both sides of the family. They would have had few regrets about leaving the hard-scrabble life and uncertain tenure of tenant farmers in Caithness. Indeed, they had helped transplant some of that community to happier circumstances here.